And today we're going to talk about the changing rules of engagement for your employees. So my name is Jessie Paul and I'm the CEO of Paul Writer, and we're actually facilitating the discussion. And before we start, I think all of us have experienced the tremendous change in how we engage with our employees. I mean, typically earlier when you joined an organization, we used to have multiple, induction programs, and then pretty much you were on your own. So much so that 92, when I took my first job, I've been to 3 different hotels in Bangalore. At the end of it, we moved on to birthday cakes, and pretty much that was the engagement, and that's all we really is. And team members expect a great deal more, a lot of engagement with the organization, a lot more understanding of what they can do in the big picture context. And also, of course, there is much more continuous engagement that is expected and being given. So today's discussion is about the changing rules of engagement, and we have 2 very eminent speakers for this. We have Rajorshi Ganguli and Richa Dubey, and our first speaker is Rajorshi Ganguli from Dr. Reddy, a very large organization with very peculiar challenges of its own, and after that we have Rajorshi Ganguli from Schneider Electric. So over to you, Rajorshi. Maybe you'd like to give quick context and then move into your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jessie. This is Rajorshi here. So let me just set up the presentation, then I'll give a context so that it is working fine. Are you all able to see the presentation?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm still not able to see the presentation.
Not visible.
Shambhavi, I have projected here, but any reason it's not coming there?
Just give us a minute. If it doesn't come, we will play it from here, but it says that it's coming. So possibly there's a slight lag.
Just test it. Is it visible now? Hello.
Yeah, it's come up now.
We can see your screen.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see the screen, which is orange color, right? Good to go with everyone?
Yes, it's fine. You can start.
Okay, thanks. So good afternoon, everyone. This is Rajorshi joining from Dr. Reddy's, Hyderabad. I think thanks, Jessie, for inviting me to this session today. And I think it's a very, very relevant topic that you have taken up. In fact, coincidentally, today morning when I came to the office, I got a call from one of very senior person in one of the function, and he said, Rajorshi, I'm feeling very bad these days. I said, what happened? My boss is micromanaging everything that I'm doing, and Just 2 days back, I told him that I'm going to come a little late because I have to attend a parents-teacher meeting, and then the boss calls me every half an hour, what's happening, why are you so late? And then he then says, take leave, because if you can't come on time, then take leave. And I feel very bad that, my boss is so insensitive, having even worked for 3-4 years with him. So, I mean, this is all about engagement. I mean, this is of course one aspect of the engagement when you are not able to connect with your team, with your colleagues, and you feel really, where am I? So taking on from here, I'm just thought in the next few slides I'll build in a context, and I'm sure thereafter we will take question and answer. So for the benefit of audience who is out there, we have all heard the term engagement. That's something not new. But let's understand what it is all about, and because there are various meaning and understanding of engagement. Sometimes some of my business colleagues call me and tell me, can we arrange a picnic to build engagement? Or can we, do some kind of outbound to do an engagement? My question is it really an engagement activity? Because sometimes we confuse connect and kind of having fun with engagement. So let's understand what is engagement. The engagement to us, what we understand is the extent to which people really enjoy and value what they do. And that's why they are in the organization. So basically it's a, it's a two-way commitment that one builds with the organization by being in the organization through the work or the position that the person is holding. We have also heard, sometimes a person can be disengaged. Now, I'm sure all of you have done different surveys which pointed out that, so and so percentage of your workforce is disengaged or engaged or partly engaged. What does this all mean? If you see, I mean, pictorially, I have just tried to kind of represent when a person is disengaged, actually he or she is physically out there, but that person is just like a body. The person doesn't bring the motivation, the energy, the willingness, the will to to do anything. And therefore, as you see, a lot of things that the person can do remains undelivered, and that's the waste, and that's the lost opportunity. I mean, one can have a wonderful pedigree, education, or experience, but for some reason, if a person gets disconnected or disengaged, he or she doesn't really kind of bring 100% to work. And that's the example I was giving when the person called me today morning. He feels that, why I'm here. I'm here in the organization for so many years, but this is how my boss treats me. I don't feel like really working and coming to work. On the other hand, if you really have good engaged employees, they can really go the extra mile, and you don't need to tell them what to do. They themselves figure out what needs to be done, and they're raring to go. And of course, the result of it is that the company or the organization, benefits from the performance. They are able to retain the employee as well for a longer time. And with all this, of course, somewhere it shows up in customer satisfaction, because our belief is that a happy employee really kind of is able to, make a customer satisfied. So that's really the benefit of having an engaged employee. Moving ahead, I came across some surveys, and I'm sure there are plenty of such surveys which happens, which says that, I'm on the next slide, it says that 70% of business leaders, they feel that yes, employee engagement is important for business result. But if you look at the other pie, 20% of them say that they really agree with in terms of the initiatives which the organization is taking is yielding result, which means that what we bracket under employee engagement initiative, are they really giving us any result or benefiting business. So today, the whatever statistics we have, it shows that most of our so-called engagement initiatives, the way we all understand and try to implement, it's not enough. So why is that so? Moving on to the next slide, if you look at today we are somewhere in 2017, and we are in a very peculiar situation where if you look at our workforce, and mostly I'm talking of companies which are large, which are diverse, which have been in existence for a long time, you really have different sets of employees, starting from people who kind of we call as the boomers to Gen X and of course millennials and thereafter. So the entire subject of engagement becomes very vulnerable. The reason being, what would perhaps engage a millennial or a Gen 2020? Would it really engage somebody who is a boomer? So then how do you kind of make sure that you have the right recipe to engage your workforce? I think that's the big challenge today organization is facing, because many times, we try to have one size fits all and it really doesn't work. So, and it's not easy also to have, tailor-made solutions for engagement for everyone. But as Jessie said at the start that, today the workforce is changing, the context is changing, the complexity in the environment is of a very different nature than when we started our career. So what it really takes, does it just getting a job is engaging enough? The answer is no. So what it takes to make a person stay on and really deliver? If you look at in my own personal experience, and this is, I was reading something in HBR which attracted me, which is called something as the me to we continuum. I mean, having just some of the hygiene in place is no more just enough for engaging somebody. It's all about starting with me. Who today kind of come to the workplace, they kind of look for trust. Don't let me down. I come from a background which is of a certain kind, and allow me to flourish. Don't let me down, and enhance my daily life. And that's what people look for. I mean, how can they grow themselves? What kind of responsibility are we getting? Are we being treated fairly? Are you able to connect me to the wider cause of the organization? Is something, the job that I'm doing, how do I see the impact of it across the organization and beyond? And in the process, how can I grow? How can I see myself growing? It's something that people look for. And this is where the difficulty starts, because how do you kind of bring this and make a person experience in the overall ecosystem? So if you look at, there are many things people look for when they say don't let me down. So everybody wants to work for a company they trust, which is a very important factor for engagement. If one loses trust with his or her immediate manager, I mean, whatever you may do, I think you have just lost the employee. Of course, there are other things like fair salary, benefits, policies, positive recognition. How do you kind of enrich the career of the person? How do you make sure there is, the person feels that what they have earned, what they have performed, they're getting due recognition. Is the project exciting? Am I also kind of treated, kind of fairly? Is the organization ethical? Is the organization honest, straightforward, or it's, we say something, we do something else. So people look for fairness as another pillar which really engages someone. Take it forward, people even look at networks, Am I a cause in the matter? Am I just belonging to one function, one department, or I am part of a bigger ecosystem? When they look for this connection, when they understand this connection, they really feel engaged. For example, in our kind of industry, when someone sees that, they are delivering or they are part of a research or a manufacturing by which they are generating or manufacturing a medicine which is helping some patients somewhere down around the world, they find themselves kind of a part of a bigger cause, and that really engages them, that you're really making contribution to somebody's health, or you're able to kind of make a person lead a good life. So these are some of the things today, if you look at the overall framework of engagement, which really ticks and makes a better connect with the work. However, as we say this, there are, and as you kind of look at the HR function or how you kind of manage the engagement, there are some high impact engagement drivers, which starts with the role itself. Is the role meaningful? Am I clear what I'm supposed to do? Do I have a good career in the organization? Am I getting a chance to do what I like? Am I being valued? Is my interest being taken care of? Then of course, one can go to the performance management. Am I kind of getting a fair share of the responsibility? Am I getting feedback? Am I getting informal, formal feedback? And is my effort getting rewarded? The question is, while all of these are important, the question is which one to choose, and how do we kind of fit it to an individual, and that's where the role of a manager lies. The manager must know what would engage someone in my team. For example, for someone, networking may be most important than just a role clarity, or someone for the other, the role clarity may be more important than the work environment. So the ability of the manager to sense the need of the person and therefore have a constant dialogue and connect with the person really creates an engagement. So while some of these are the, I would say, as the hardware of engagement, but beyond this, I think something works very kind of, below the water, and that's somewhere I have seen that it really kind of, there are teams which really perform well where some of these elements are there, and those teams which are not doing well, some of them are missing, even though structurally, process-wise, many of those engagement drivers may be present. For example, the trust, and I said it earlier, that whatever may be the condition, situation, if someone has broken the trust between the person or the manager or someone else in the organization, you may be a best employer, you may be having the best of person working in the organization, best of process and system, you'll never find a person, kind of engaged with the organization anymore. Then things like, soft things like, do we have a shoulder to cry? Many of us go through personal hardship situations. When we look for someone to kind of share our thoughts, a shoulder to cry, do we get such person in the organization? Do we get respect in the organization? That's something very important. And each one of us may be driven by some of these things which may not be true to someone else. But collectively, all this matters to everyone. Connecting beyond work. I mean, am I just being treated as a person who come to work, deliver my work and go back home, or as a manager, are you even able to kind of connect with me beyond work? That's something very important. And of course, we all know that a team who laughs and are able to smile, they perform very well. So these are some of the things to me are very important to create a highly engaging workforce. And as we see kind of the workplace changing, more and more millennials and Gen 20 people coming, for them some of these are very, very important parameters to choose an organization. And lastly, I would like to end my presentation with Ikigai, and I'm sure some of you may have heard this term, Ikigai. It's a Japanese term which says a reason for being. I mean, Why is that everybody get up in the morning? What's there for me? What are we here for? And if the workplace is able to provide you with your ikigai, then you will really have an engaged workforce. And what it means is the workforce, is the work which you are doing is something which you really love. Which is basically your passion or a mission. Is the work which you are doing is you are there to the business, the greater society. I'm also getting paid for, coupled with trust and all the other things that I mentioned. And make sure that manager and team member connect is kind of done very
Muted.
I think it'll take a couple of seconds. It's up. Yes.
Up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Everybody can see my screen now? Okay,
yes.
I'm starting from here. Thank you, Rajorshi, and good afternoon, everybody who is in the call. I think you made it sound so interesting and so smooth. Thank you for setting up the context. My name is Richa Dubey, and I head the human resources on the commercial side of Schneider Electric. Engagement is a term, I think, which we as human resource professionals are using every day, day in and day out. But what is engagement all about? Let's see. Why is it important? Quoting Jack Welch, long back, I'm going to the 70s and 80s, where it talked about no company can win over the long run if the employees are not engaged and they don't believe in the mission and understand how to achieve the mission of the organization. This Jack Welch said during the 70s when it was a time of employee satisfaction. Or maybe not even that. It was a time when they were thinking that having a job is the most important thing. Forget satisfaction, forget commitment, forget sustainability, where we have arrived today. In the 70s and 80s, employee satisfaction started taking shape. where it had little or no connect with the performance of the individual or the organization. It was all about, is the person satisfied being in the job? Then it gradually moved to commitment, loyalty. Am I loyal to an organization? Am I there for a long time? Am I, giving back what I am getting from the organizations? Those were the questions employees were asking. And gradually, today, in the 2010s, and it has moved to commitment. And commitment cannot replace engagement. Engagement is beyond that. Here, if you see last 20 years, loyalty has changed to fleeting. Fleeting is a term which is used when people are committed to their careers, no doubt, but it's not about being there in the same job forever. An average of a millennium's job in an organization is of 2.5 to 3 years. So when employee loyalty changed its shape, even commitment changed to engagement. Where employees realized that they have to be flexible, leaner, and competitive to sustain, and that is where engagement took shape. Let us look at how do we continuously improve engagement structure. Nearly all the organizations on the globe today, irrespective of which industry they belong to, have employee engagement as their prerogative. Two very good data points from Deloitte's study is that 87% of executives rate culture and employee engagement as their major challenge. And that is where your key talent retention comes up. It's all about talent war going on today. You and I are facing it every day. So how do we keep them engaged to win this war? And out of this, 87% you see that they are asking about rate culture and employee engagement as their basic challenge, and 66% feel that they're already working on updating their engagement retention strategies. These are more data points here. So it's not just the realization around engagement, but also there are concrete steps being taken to change the situation. What is the need? Why do we need to do this change? Employees are no more just employees. Since I spoke about a fleeting population, they are volunteering to work for you. Okay? They can choose to work for anyone. In that situation, are they engaged enough to continue to work with an organization? The work style itself has become very complex and cross-functional. And it changes the way we engage employees, because today we work in a more matrixed organization, in different time zone, same person doing the various roles, various level of engagement, and that makes it more and more complex and cross-functional, and the need for engagement becomes higher. Even employees' motivation level has changed. Okay, it is more about developing leadership. And so what are the new rules? When this is a scenario, when there is a need, so what rules are we as organizations adopting to change the engagement? Very, very, very crucial point. I spoke about performance in the beginning, and today performance has become the key factor in a regular basis of connecting with employees. It's most of the organizations, very famous, popular organizations, successful organizations are doing away with their appraisal system. There's a regular connect between leaders, managers, employees, and they're discussing performance and linking it to development and rewards. Things are getting digitized. We no more wait for papers to arrive, but we are in a generation of digitization, where products are connected, data is gathered, it's analyzed, and analytics provide us with the required knowledge. Same thing is happening with the human resources also. Employees are seriously investing in employees' well-being. It's beyond just a physical health checkup. Today we have organizations who provide mental well-being support. We as an organization do it at Schneider Electric. And there are various other ways of supporting it. Flexible work environment, flexibility to work from any place, anytime. So those kind of well-being initiatives we are seeing on a regular basis. Roles are better aligned with business needs, and leaders no more sit on a crown on a throne. They are accessible to all the workforce for continuous employee development, learning, and feedback. So now the question comes, so we have the scenario and we know the rules of engagement. Who owns it? It is no more limited to human resources owning it. It's the business leaders and the managers who own engagement. Leaders are really striving to build a strong, enduring culture. Feedbacks are paid attention to, and there is a definite need to engage and retain their teams. They are being evaluated and measured, their performance being measured based on how they are managing their teams. How are they keeping their teams engaged? What do we do at Schneider? These are some of the things we do at Schneider. I'm not going much into details. Since I work here, I thought it was crucial to share. But today, what the requirement is, people need to be challenged to think beyond programs. And there is a holistic system that creates the culture environment for an engaged employee. So if you look at it, on one hand, the culture, the processes, the systems, the leaders and the managers and the employees' commitment, they all come on the same platform today to create a more engaged culture. I will just go back and quote what Rajorshi stated some time back. It's about psychological commitment. And all this leads to the psychological commitment to an organization and loyalty therein. Loyalty in the sense, are we committing up to the expectations the organization has, and are we performing at that extent? So this is what I had from my desk for everyone. Thank you. I hope we have been able to provide you the Ikagai which Rajorshi mentioned for being in this presentation. Thanks once again.
Thank you so much. We do have a couple of questions. So, and both of you can take a stab at answering them. The first one was, when we have a multi-generational workforce, how do we actually structure an engagement program that works across the 5 generations? Rajorshi, I think that's specific to your slide, so if you'd like to take a shot at that one.
Yeah, sure. As I said in the presentation, that today it's a reality that, our workforce has people from different generations. So while some factors remain common, and as you even saw in the presentation of Richa, things around performance, connect, trust, I don't think these would vary from generation to generation. But yet some of the programs, for example, we have to make sure, for example, let me be more specific. Suppose we are an organization which is a very high hierarchical organization, as opposed to an organization which is very informal. Now, if you have workforce from younger generation, they may not like a hierarchical organization. So that's something we have to make sure that, as if we want to kind of attract talent of such kind of background, how do we make the organization more informal, connected, break down the hierarchy? So conceptually, yes, you have to tailor make, kind of offerings to the different kind of employees that you have. Make sure that the policies are probably not same for all. or maybe the policies are tuned to the different age bracket. That's number one. But at a holistic level, some of these principles of engagement, you know, how am I connected to the work? Am I valued? Is my performance noticed? Am I getting the respect? I think that remains constant across generation. That's my belief.
Thanks. And there was actually an add-on question of what about geographical distinctions?
Okay, so for example, in my current role, I manage HR of about close to 25 countries. Does that mean that the rules of engagement are very different in every culture, every country? The answer is no. But yet there could be some specific practices which needs to be kind of respected, and one needs to probably kind of tailor make it to that country. So while you can have a global policy, global engagement drivers, but sometimes you have to customize and tune it to the local environment. For example, you know, in a country like ours and several other countries, we find that the informal feedback by peers around us is very okay and accepted, and that can engage someone. But we have a country, you know, where this feedback is taken very seriously, and it has to come only from the manager. There, if I try to kind of practice informal feedback or too much of 360-degree feedback, it doesn't engage a person. So I have to be mindful of that and make sure that when we are replicating the different engagement programs or processes, is it in tune with the local culture and expectation? To that extent, I think we may need to kind of modify and adapt it.
Richa, I'm going to pass the next question to you. And Rajorshi, I see a comment from Southeast saying that they've got the answer. So this question was about, you know, where does a budget for engagement reside? Is there a specific budget, or, you know, where does it reside?
So I'll just go back to the point where we're making about engagement is something which is the feeling, the way employees feel, it's psychological commitment. And to create that commitment, we spoke about how leadership engages, how manager engages, and how we create a culture. Of course, surveys are done to measure it, but that is not a very huge budget. And if somebody is asking about that particular budget, generally it resides with human resources. Since we are the custodian of this very crucial resource, and we support and we facilitate the engagement of people in the organization, it resides with us. I hope I have answered the question.
Richa, there's an add-on piece to that question, which was, what's the best way to get the CEO to agree to that budget?
I think we have to show a value add there, which is in the sense that can we do a sampling? I'm just giving a very practical example. Can we do a sampling of a team and show that if the leader and the manager is engaged, how the team is performing as compared to somebody where it's disengaged? That is one way of doing it. Second is also if you look at, hold on, and also if you look at there are CEOs today who themselves encourage it. So you can in fact start it from his own office, because he or she understands very well why does the commitment of the organization go up or go down, and how leaders by their charisma can have a very engaged or a disengaged workforce. I hope it is fine. Anything else?
Yeah, there are a couple of questions on the importance and the validity of engagement surveys. So one is how important, how often, when to do an engagement survey. And the second, part of the question is, are surveys done by the consultancy company is accurate, or is it just a summation of a demographic representation?
Okay. So this is a question which many of us ask. It's also about how we frame our questions. Definitely, it helps because it's a third party, it's an external body which is facilitating. But how we get our questions framed and how we get it delivered is important. If we are measuring something, it's easier to impact it. And that is why I think it's crucial to measure it and understand how engaged our workforce is. But then, the way the questions are designed, what we want to measure, to what extent are we committed is very much an individual's, the organization's commitment towards the survey. So only a survey might not help till we are fully committed and we exactly know what we want out of it. And we are committed to even changing the results that come out.
Great. So I'm going to give the last question to Rajorshi. We have only 3 minutes left, and this is a slightly different question from the previous ones. It's from Vinod, and he's asking if we need to engage the blue collar, and if yes, how? So I'm assuming the answer is yes, but how would we probably, if you could shed some light on that.
Okay, I think it's an interesting question, and of course the answer is yes, because at the end of the day, whether you're a white collar, blue collar, you are a human being, so you need to be engaged. Now, some of the, kind of factors that I discussed in the presentation that holds true even for blue collar. And with my own experience having, kind of handled multiple factories and sites, what I've seen, some few things which has worked very well for blue collar employees is, they are very simple person at the end of the day. How as a professional or as a manager you get down to the shop floor, connect with them, talk to them, hear out their small kind of, problems in life or requests, how to address them with sincerity and respect is something which really engages them, because I have seen that their, kind of needs or wants there, it's not, of a very higher order. So if you are able to fulfill some of these requests, help that they need, you really find, them engaging with you. The other factor which I have tried out and it has stayed is when you connect with the families, when you kind of reach out to them, connect with their spouses, children, involve them in some of the work that the company does, talk to their families, make them feel important, that how their contribution is impacting the organization. It really kind of engages them very deeply. And I've seen it working. So to summarize, how you connect with them, talk to them, give them respect, take care of some of the small requests, or help their need, be genuine about them. If you can't do, also say that you can't do. They will respect that, and connect with their families. I think that's what they look for, because they look for some kind of security, respect, because they feel that in the pyramid of the management structure they are on the lower side, so probably they are not so as important as others. But if you kind of take them out of this thinking pattern, they are really, really engaged.
So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us for this CHRO Forum webinar powered by Sodexo. The next activity that we have planned for the forum is actually a workshop on HR analytics, which is taking place in Bangalore on May 12th. So if you'd like to participate in that, just let us know. And I think, this dialogue helps. At least I've got some interesting ideas out of this. So I'd like to thank my speakers, Rajorshi Ganguli and Richa Dubey. Thank you so much for sparing the time. And of course to the many, many people who joined in and who contributed the questions as well, because that also triggered a new line of thought. So thanks to all of you for joining us. And with regard to the presentations, yes, they will be made available, and we also have a recording of the webinar. So we will share that with all those who participated. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richa. And thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all of you.